In the beginning, there was a world teeming with life, a masterpiece of creation. Imagine that. Seeing every creature, from the majestic lion to the tiny hummingbird, and giving each one its unique name. And so, while Adam was in a deep sleep, a part of him was taken to form another being. When Adam awoke and saw her, he recognized her instantly as bone of his bones and flesh of his flesh. He called her woman because she was taken out of man. And so, Eve joined Adam in the garden. They were the first couple, living in a state of pure innocence, completely unaware of anything but the goodness and beauty surrounding them. They were naked, yet they felt no shame. In the center of this idyllic garden stood two very special trees, the tree of life, and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. A single instruction was given to Adam and Eve. They could eat freely from any tree in the garden, enjoy all its bounties, with one exception. They were commanded not to eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The consequence was stark and clear: on the day they ate of it, they would surely die. This wasn't a trick or a trap, but a boundary that defined their relationship with their Creator, one built on trust and obedience. For a time, everything was perfect. Adam and Eve lived in harmony with God, with nature, and with each other. Their days were filled with joy, discovery, and the simple pleasure of being. But this serene existence was about to be challenged. A new voice entered the garden, a subtle, cunning voice belonging to the serpent. The serpent was described as more crafty than any of the other wild animals. It approached Eve, not with a direct command, but with a simple, doubt-inducing question: did God really say, "You must not eat from any tree in the garden"? Eve, perhaps caught off guard, corrected the serpent. She explained the rule: they could eat from the trees, just not the one in the middle of the garden. She even reiterated the consequence: if they even touched it, they would die. She knew the rule. But the serpent had planted a seed of doubt, and now it moved to twist the truth entirely. "You will not certainly die," the serpent hissed. It presented an alternative reality, a tempting one. The serpent claimed that God knew that when they ate from the tree, their eyes would be opened. They would become like God, knowing good and evil. Think about that for a moment. The temptation wasn't just about a piece of fruit. It was about knowledge, power, and self-elevation. It was the desire to be more than they were, to grasp a level of understanding that was, until then, reserved for the divine. Eve looked at the tree. The fruit now seemed more appealing than ever. It was good for food, pleasing to the eye, and, most of all, desirable for gaining wisdom. The serpent's words echoed in her mind. The boundary that once represented trust now felt like a restriction. In that moment of decision, she took some of the fruit and ate it. But the act didn't end there. She then gave some to Adam, who was with her, and he ate it too. And for the first time, they felt shame. A profound, crushing sense of vulnerability and exposure washed over them. Their innocence was gone, shattered in an instant. Their immediate reaction was to hide. They frantically stitched fig leaves together to cover themselves, a futile attempt to conceal their newfound shame from each other. But their deeper instinct was to hide from their Creator. Later that day, in the cool of the evening, they heard the sound of God walking in the garden. Before, this sound would have brought joy and anticipation. Now, it brought terror. They ran, they hid among the trees, trying to become invisible. But you can't hide from the one who made you. The loving question came, where are you? It wasn't a question of location, it was a question of relationship. Where have you gone? Why are you hiding from me? Adam's response was telling. He said, I heard you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid. Fear had entered the human heart for the very first time. The moment of truth had arrived. But instead of confession, came the blame game. Adam pointed his finger at Eve. The woman you put here with me, she gave me some fruit from the tree, and I ate it. He even subtly blamed the Creator for giving him the woman in the first place. When the question was put to Eve, she, in turn, blamed the serpent. The serpent deceived me, and I ate. No one took full responsibility. This chain of blame, this passing of the buck, is perhaps one of the most relatable and tragic parts of the story. For Adam, the very ground he was meant to tend was now cursed. He would have to work it with painful toil, sweat, and thorns just to get it to produce food. The easy abundance of Eden was gone. And finally, the ultimate consequence, mortality. For dust you are, and to dust you will return. Physical death would now be their end. As a symbol of this new reality, their makeshift fig leaves were replaced. The Creator made them garments of skin, a somber reminder that something had to die to cover their shame. It was an act of both judgment and mercy. Then came the final, heartbreaking act. To prevent them from reaching out and also taking from the tree of life and living forever in their fallen, broken state, Adam and Eve were banished from the Garden of Eden. The way to the tree of life was guarded by cherubim and a flaming sword, forever separating humanity from the paradise it once called home. And so, Adam and Eve stepped out into a new world. A world of hardship, toil, pain, and death. But also a world of hope. The story doesn't end in complete despair. It sets the stage for the rest of the human story, a long, complex narrative of struggle, redemption,